the morning of July 22nd, 2013, a 66-year-old woman named Geraldine Largay stepped off the Appalachian Trail in western Maine to go to the bathroom. That's all. She walked a short way into the trees, the way millions of hikers do every year, the way you would. She never found her way back. Her friends on the trail called her Inchworm for her slow, steady pace. She was a retired nurse from Tennessee, an experienced section hiker, and she was living out a dream she had carried for years. She had started months earlier at Harper's Ferry, walking north toward Mount Katahdin, the northern end of the trail. Her husband, George, met her at road crossings with fresh supplies, a hot shower, and a warm bed. She had a hiking partner for part of it, until a family emergency pulled the other woman off the trail. Largay decided to keep going alone. She was doing everything the right way. And then she took a few dozen steps into a stand of dense Maine softwood, turned around, and the world had rearranged itself. Every direction looked the same. The narrow path she had been standing on minutes before had simply dissolved into green. She tried to text George. "In some trouble," she wrote. "Got off trail to go to B.R.E. Now lost. Can you call AMC to see if a trail maintainer can help me?" The message never sent. There was no signal in that hollow. The next day she tried again. "Lost since yesterday. Off trail 3 or 4 miles. Call police for what to do, please." That one didn't send either. She climbed toward higher ground, hoping for a bar or two of signal, and only walked herself deeper into the forest. Her husband last saw her the morning before. When she didn't show up at their meeting point on Route 27, he waited, and then he reported her missing. The last hikers to see her had shared a shelter with her at a spot called the Poplar Ridge Lean-To. After that, nothing. Here is the part I want you to sit with. Geraldine Largay survived. Not for hours, for weeks. She set up her little tent on a wooded knoll, rationed what she had, put on her rain gear, and wrapped herself in an emergency blanket, and she kept a journal in a small black notebook. The last dated entry was August 18th, almost a month after she got lost. On the cover of that notebook, she had written a note to whoever found her. "George, please read." 2 years passed before anyone did. The search that went looking for her became one of the largest and most expensive in the history of the state of Maine. Hundreds of people, dozens of missions, dogs, aircraft, volunteers. It was thrown off by bad information more than once. A garbled voicemail, 3 boys who thought they had seen her, but had actually seen another hiker. The search teams shifted to the wrong area, chasing ghosts, while she sat quietly on her knoll, waiting for a rescue that kept just missing her. At times, searchers came within 100 yards of her camp and never knew it. In October of 2015, more than 2 years later, a surveyor stumbled onto her collapsed tent. Inside was her sleeping bag, her journal, and her remains. She had died there of starvation and exposure, tucked into her sleeping bag inside a zipped tent. She was less than 2 miles from the Appalachian Trail. On a map, that is nothing. It's a 20-minute walk. In that forest, it was the distance between living and not. I've spent years around trails like this one, and I have helped look for people who walked a few steps off the path to answer a call of nature and were never the same distance from safety again. So I am telling you plainly, this is not the story of a reckless person doing something foolish deep in the wilderness. This is the story of a careful, experienced woman who stepped off a well-marked trail to pee and paid for it with her life. That is the danger of the Appalachian Trail. Not that it's remote, that it looks safe. Let me show you what I mean. The Appalachian Trail runs about 2,190 miles from Springer Mountain in Georgia to Mount Katahdin in Maine. The official figure this year is a little under 2,200, and it shifts slightly every year as crews reroute and remeasure the footpath. It crosses 14 states. It is the longest hiking-only footpath in the world, and it is stitched into American culture in a way no other trail is. You've seen the movies, a woman finding herself with a too heavy pack, a pair of old friends bumbling through the woods for laughs, books, documentaries, a whole romantic idea of a green tunnel you can step into and come out the other side a better person. More than 3 million people set foot on some piece of it every year. Around 3,000 attempt to walk the entire thing in a single season. And here is the reframe that should stop you cold. This is not Everest. This is not the deep Alaskan backcountry. The Appalachian Trail is famous precisely because it is accessible. It is marked the entire way with white paint. It crosses hundreds of roads. It is dotted with three-sided shelters and passes within a short drive of towns with diners and hostels and outfitters. On a summer weekend in Georgia, parts of it feel like a parade. You are, for most of the trail, genuinely never that far from help. And it still does what it did to Geraldine Largay every single year. That is the puzzle at the center of this whole thing. How does a trail this popular, this marked, this close to civilization keep swallowing capable people who were, by the map, almost home? The answer isn't ghosts, it isn't monsters. There is a whole genre of creepy internet stories about these mountains, and I want no part of it, because the truth is both simpler and scarier. The answer is terrain, water, weather, bad luck, and the strange things the human mind does when it is cold and afraid. I want to walk you through it, one piece at a time, not to scare you off the trail. The Appalachian Trail is one of the great walks on earth, and I would send anyone I love out onto it. But I would send them out knowing this. Start with the thing everyone trusts, the white blazes. Every couple hundred feet, painted on a tree trunk or a rock, there is a rectangle of white paint about the size of a dollar bill. Follow the white blazes and you are on the trail. It is brilliant. It is simple. It has guided hikers for the better part of a century, and hikers love it so much that they have built a whole culture around it. But that same simplicity is a trap, because the moment you cannot see the next white blaze, you have no idea where the trail is. And in the woods, that moment comes faster than you think. You step behind a tree. You follow a game path that looks exactly like the real thing. Fog rolls in, the light drops. Suddenly you are scanning 100 tree trunks, and not one of them has a white mark on it. The shelters fool people too. Every few miles there is a simple wooden lean-to where hikers sleep, cook, and sign the logbook. They make the trail feel domesticated, supervised, but nobody is checking on you at a shelter. There is no ranger at the door taking attendance. If you leave one and never reach the next, it can be days before anyone even notices you are gone. And then there are the crowds. On a nice weekend, the popular sections are full of people in sneakers carrying a water bottle and a granola bar, out for a couple of easy miles. There is nothing wrong with that, but it creates a feeling. If all these ordinary people are out here, how dangerous can it possibly be? That feeling is the most dangerous thing on the mountain. Because the trail does not stay crowded, it does not stay marked in your mind, and the weather that is mild in the parking lot is a different animal, 1,000 feet up. Which brings me to the first way this trail hurts people: getting lost by stepping just off of it. I know how it sounds. You cannot get lost on a trail that is painted every few hundred feet, except that is not where people get lost. They do not lose the trail on the trail. They lose it in the 10 yards to the side of it. A bathroom break, a better view, a snack spot on a rock, a junction where two paths split and you take the wrong one for 30 seconds before the doubt sets in. Much of the Appalachian Trail runs through what hikers call the Green Tunnel. Thick eastern forest, leaves overhead, undergrowth on both sides, the path a narrow corridor through a wall of green. It is beautiful. It is also a place with almost no landmarks, no distant peak to steer by, no river in sight, just trees in every direction that all look exactly alike. Step off that corridor and turn around, and the corridor is gone. This is what happened to Geraldine Largay. It is a phenomenon so common that search and rescue teams have studied the way lost people behave. They walk in loops without realizing it. They convince themselves the trail is just over the next rise. They keep moving when they should stop, and every step takes them farther from the one thin line that would have led them home. Largay eventually did almost everything a lost person is supposed to do. She stopped. She made camp. She stayed put and waited for rescue. She survived for close to a month on that knoll, while hundreds of people searched for her. And the woods were so thick, the terrain so folded with ridges and brooks and dense softwood, that a search which by any measure should have found her simply could not. Less than 2 miles. Remember that number as we go, because you are going to hear it again. If a story like this is the reason you are here, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I put one of these together every week. Always grounded, always the real cases with the real names and dates. It helps more than you would guess, and it keeps this kind of work going. Now, let me tell you about the quiet killer, because getting lost is frightening, but it is usually not what finishes the job out here. This is hypothermia, and not the kind you're picturing, not a blizzard, not deep winter. The deadliest hypothermia window on the Appalachian Trail is a day that sounds almost pleasant. Temperatures in the 40s. A steady rain, a little wind. That is it. That is the combination that kills. The Appalachian Trail Conservancy says it plainly. A cold rain is the most dangerous weather a hiker can face because it can cause hypothermia even when it is well above freezing. Here is the physics of it. Water pulls heat out of your body far faster than air does. Get your clothes wet, add a breeze, and your core temperature starts falling, whether it is 20 degrees out or 50. If you are wearing cotton, a sweatshirt, blue jeans, an ordinary rain poncho, that fabric holds the water against your skin and speeds the whole thing up. And there is a rule of thumb hikers learn the hard way. For every 1,000 feet you climb, the temperature drops roughly 5 degrees. A mild 40-degree rain down at the trailhead can be sleet and wind up on the ridge. The cruelest part is what the cold does to your mind. As your core temperature drops, your judgment goes with it. You stop thinking clearly, you make bad decisions, and then worse ones. In the final stages, some people do something that sounds impossible. They feel a rush of false warmth and start taking their clothes off. Rescuers call it paradoxical undressing. And it is one of the last signs before the end. On September 25, 2018, a 53-year-old mother of 3 named Susan Clements was hiking with her grown daughter near Clingman's Dome, the highest point on the entire Appalachian Trail in the Great Smoky Mountains. It was a popular route on a busy weekend. On the way back, Susan told her daughter to go ahead to the observation tower and said she would meet her at the parking lot. It appears she missed the turn for the lot and walked on to the Appalachian Trail instead. Then the fog came in. Then the rain. Temperatures in the 40s. She was wearing a light sweater, leggings, and a plastic poncho. She was dressed for a stroll, not a night out in the mountains, and she had no food, no light, and no working phone. She never made the parking lot. A search went on for a week in weather so thick that a park spokeswoman said you could not see the person standing next to you. The rain erased the scent trails the dogs needed. On October 2nd, they found her body in a creek, about 3/4 of a mile off the trail down a steep drainage in vegetation so dense they had to lift her out by helicopter. She had removed some of her clothing. The medical examiner ruled it hypothermia, with dehydration as a contributing factor. She died within a couple of miles of a parking lot, in a month when people were still hiking in shorts and tank tops. That is the trail's quiet killer, not the storm you can see coming. The gray, drizzly, 50-degree afternoon that does not look like a threat at all. Now, let's talk about water, because moving water on this trail has taken some of its strongest hikers. Rain does not just chill you, it swells the streams and rivers you have to cross. A creek that is ankle deep in the morning can be a chest-high torrent by afternoon after a storm upstream. Crossing moving water is one of the most underestimated skills in the backcountry. Water only knee-deep, if it is moving fast, has enough force to sweep your feet out from under you. Once you are down, a heavy pack turns from a burden into an anchor that holds you under. The most notorious crossing on the whole Appalachian Trail is the Kennebec River in Maine. It is the widest unbridged crossing on the trail, about 70 yards of cold, powerful water. And it has a trick to it. There is a large hydroelectric dam upstream, and when it releases, the river can rise several feet in a matter of minutes. You can start across on a calm, shallow-looking morning and be fighting for your life halfway. In 1985, an experienced section hiker named Alice Ferrens reached the Kennebec with her husband George. The two of them had been chipping away at this trail together for 9 years. They were within 150 miles of the finish. Their last shelter log entry was cheerful about wading the river in the morning. Alice went to ford the Kennebec, wearing her full pack, and the current took her. She drowned. Her death changed the trail. In response, the Appalachian Trail Conservancy first published careful instructions for fording the river, then, on legal advice, reversed course entirely and told hikers not to ford it at all. Instead, they funded an official canoe ferry, a guide who paddles hikers across the river. And to this day, that canoe is considered the official route. There is a white blaze painted right on the boat, taking it still counts toward walking every mile of the trail. It is free, it is safe, it is right there, and people still try to swim it. In May of 2018, a 39-year-old military veteran named Michael Camiso told people he planned to cross the Kennebec on his own. He was warned that day that the water was running high. His gear turned up scattered along the trail. His body was later recovered from the river. A free ferry, a painted canoe, a direct warning, and the river still won. That is the pattern with water on this trail. It is not that the crossings are impossible. It is that they look easier than they are, and they change faster than you can react to them. Now let's go up high, where the trail shows its other face. For most of its length, the Appalachian Trail is that sheltered green tunnel, but in a few places it climbs above the trees onto bare, exposed ridgelines and grassy summits that hikers call balds. And up there, the mountain makes its own weather. The most feared stretch is the White Mountains of New Hampshire, home to Mount Washington, a peak that for decades held the record for the highest surface wind speed ever measured by people anywhere on Earth. Up on those ridges, the temperature down in the valley means nothing. You can leave a trailhead where the town is in the low 70s and climb into cold rain, driving wind, and zero visibility within a couple of hours. That is not a rare worst-case story. That is an ordinary summer day in the Whites. In June of 2025, too, hikers were caught near the summit of Mount Lafayette when the weather turned on them. The town below was in the 70s. On the ridge, it was raining, blowing, and dropping toward 40 degrees, with no visibility at all. By the time a mountain hut crew climbed up to find them, one of the hikers was already unresponsive from hypothermia. It took several search and rescue teams to carry him down off the mountain. And during that carryout, one of the rescuers was badly injured. The hiker survived. Only just. And then there is lightning. Those same open balds and ridge lines that give you the breathtaking views. make you the tallest thing around when a thunderstorm builds. The Conservancy says at least 4 people are known to have died from lightning on the Appalachian Trail, and many more have been struck and left with severe, sometimes permanent, injuries. A summer afternoon storm in the southern Balls can go from blue sky to a strike in the time it takes to eat your lunch. Down in the green tunnel, the danger is that you cannot see out. Up on the ridge, the danger is that there is nowhere to hide. There is one more mechanism, and it is the one people laugh at, right up until it lays them flat: getting sick. You do not picture a stomach bug as a wilderness threat. But out here, illness and dehydration knock more hikers off the trail than almost anything else. The 2 main culprits are Giardia, a parasite you pick up from untreated water, and norovirus, the same stomach virus that tears through cruise ships and nursing homes. The trail is, in some ways, perfectly built to spread it. Those cozy shelters pack 15 or 20 tired hikers together, sleeping and eating and touching the same surfaces, just inches apart. In the Great Smokies, hikers are often required to sleep in those shelters rather than spread out in tents. When a public health investigator swabbed a trail cabin after an outbreak on another long trail, nearly every common surface came back positive for fecal contamination. Door handles, tabletops, the floor. Here is the twist that catches even careful hikers. Most of the popular water filters nearly everyone carries will stop Giardia just fine. They will not stop norovirus. The virus is simply too small for the filter to catch, so a hiker doing the responsible thing, filtering every drop of water, can still go down hard. And hand sanitizer barely touches it either, which is why the guidance is soap, water, and 20 seconds of scrubbing that is hard to manage when clean water is scarce. In the spring of 2024, the Park Service warned of a norovirus outbreak on the southern trail through Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. In 2025, it hit again in Virginia along the popular Shenandoah stretch, confirmed at a shelter called Black Rock Hut. Out there, the symptoms are not just miserable. The bug hits 12 to 48 hours after exposure, and constant vomiting and diarrhea, miles from any road, lead to dehydration fast. In the worst cases, hikers get so weak they have to be carried out of the woods. A microscopic thing you cannot see, in the water you thought you had made safe, in a shelter that felt like the safest place on the trail. That is the pattern one more time. The comfort is the risk. So step back and look at all 5 together. Getting lost a few feet off the path, hypothermia on a mild wet day, a river that rises in minutes, a ridge that makes its own storm, a stomach bug in a crowded shelter. Not one of them is supernatural. Every one of them is ordinary. And that is exactly why they are so deadly on this particular trail. Because the real danger of the Appalachian Trail lives inside your own head. Call it the competence trap. The trail lulls you. You do 10 easy miles, then 20, then 100, and nothing bad happens. Your confidence grows with every step. By the time you hit a genuinely dangerous stretch, a hard ford, an exposed ridge, a cold driving rain, you have been trained by hundreds of easy miles to believe you have got this. And the stronger and more experienced you are, the louder that voice gets. Alice Ferrance had 9 years of experience on this trail. Michael Camiso was a fit young veteran who was worn to his face that same day. Experience did not save them. In a way, it is what put them in the water. Then there is the thought that gets more people than any single storm. I am never far from help. It is technically true. And it is the reason people do not turn back, do not take the ferry, do not stop and make camp, do not treat a chill seriously while they still can. Geraldine Largay was under 2 miles from the trail. Susan Clements was a couple of miles from a parking lot. Being close to help does you no good at all if help cannot find you and you cannot move toward it. And on a long through hike, there is a specific fever that sets in near the end. The finish is close. You can feel Katahdin pulling you north. You have walked 2,000 miles, and you are not about to stop for a little weather. That drive, that beautiful, stubborn drive that carries people all the way to Maine, is the same drive that pushes them into the ford, up the ridge, and out into the storm. The crowds finish the illusion. When you see other people out here, your brain quietly files it as proof of safety. But those people cannot save you. Most of them are standing in the same thin margin you are. 100 hikers on a mountain in a lightning storm is not 100 rescuers. It is 100 people in trouble. I want to be careful here because I do not want to leave you with the wrong idea. This is not a trail where everyone who walks it dies. The overwhelming majority of the 3 million people who touch it every year go home with sore feet and some of the best memories of their lives. I would walk it tomorrow. I would tell you to walk it. It is, honestly, one of the finest things a person can do with a good pair of legs and a free season. But walk it knowing what it is. Because here is what the white blazes do not tell you. That forest was there long before the trail. The Appalachian Mountains are among the oldest on Earth, worn down over hundreds of millions of years, standing in the fog long before anyone thought to paint a rectangle on a tree and call it a path. The trail is a thin human idea laid gently over something ancient and completely indifferent. The green tunnel does not know you are on a bucket list trip. The river does not know there is a ferry. The cold rain does not know you are only 2 miles from your car. The paint on the trees is a promise we make to each other. Follow this, and you will be all right. And most of the time, it keeps that promise. But the woods never signed it. The woods were here first, and they will be here long after, and they do not bend for anyone. So if you go, and I hope you do, carry a real map and compass and know how to use them. Because a dead phone with no signal is not navigation. Carry rain gear that actually keeps you warm and layers that are not cotton. Treat your water and understand what your filter can and cannot stop. Take the ferry, respect the ridge, and watch the sky. And when something in your gut tells you to turn around, listen to it, even when the sky is still blue and everyone else is pushing on. This is not trip planning advice and conditions change by the hour. So learn from people who know the ground you are walking. Geraldine Largay's journal is a hard thing to think about, but there is a mercy in it too. She was not panicked at the end. She left a note for the man she loved and asked whoever found her to call him. She faced those woods with more grace than most of us could manage. The least we can do is learn what she taught us. The trail looks gentle. That is its greatest gift and its oldest trick. If this was worth your time, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. I have got more of these coming, and every one of them is a real story from a real place that deserves your respect. Take care out there.